Good afternoon, Cedarfield family. I hope everyone is doing well on this first day of May. Hard to believe it's May already. Feels like we're still back in March. Happy May 1st. Happy Friday to everybody. I hope this live stream, whether you're watching here at 3 o'clock or you're watching this late this afternoon or into the evening, I hope this May 1st finds you healthy and well. Today's format is as follows. I have some brief overview of Governor Northam's press briefing from 2 o'clock this afternoon, followed up by a little bit about our point prevalence survey of yesterday. And we have some other administrative updates. And then our guest today is James Green, who will present the budget for next year. He has about a 20-minute, about a 15-20-minute presentation to go over our budget for next year. And then followed by our good news segment. I think Trish Carter is leading that effort along with some words of spiritual health. So first, Governor, those of you that did not see Governor's press briefing a couple of moments ago, he talked about a couple of things. I just want to highlight a few that I took away. In the beginning, he went back through the last 8 weeks to try to help Virginians understand how far we have come. March 7th was the actual date that he started having his media briefings. And we talked a lot about, back on March 7th, the fear of a surge in our healthcare area, hospitals throughout the Commonwealth. He talked about an enormous shortage of personal protective equipment. He was talking a lot about building alternative healthcare facilities around the states. We were talking about closing businesses. He talked about this executive order from several weeks ago, talking about social distancing, 6 feet apart. And then we talked about how all that was intended to flatten the curve. And he wanted to remind everybody, as I do, that all of our efforts throughout the last 8 weeks truly have made an enormous difference. Our case counts, although, are climbing, and so too is our testing capability is climbing. And moving forward, throughout the next couple of weeks, testing is absolutely going to be the key. He talked about, he presented a graph about the daily case counts and cumulative case counts. He talked about how hospitalizations have been relatively been steady throughout the Commonwealth, and I know that to be true here in the city of Richmond. Then he talked about PPE, personal protective equipment. He had mentioned that one of the keys moving forward around the country is sanitizing what we already have is the absolute key. Because manufacturers have not caught up to the demand that we need in long-term care and in the hospital settings to really get us over the hump and then take us through the rest of the flattening of that curve. And so he had mentioned that Patel organization or company, I'm not quite sure the full name of the company, but they have invented a PPE cleaning unit. And in the Commonwealth, we are receiving 3 of those units. One of them will be here in Richmond of the 3. It's a hydrogen peroxide vapor that's used to clean specifically masks, surgical masks, N95 masks. And this unit that will be here in the city of Richmond will be able to sanitize I think I got this right, 240,000 masks a day. So that is going to be really a key piece of equipment for us moving forward throughout the next 8 weeks. He also talked about testing capability, which is a frequently asked question that Renee and I have been fielding all day. He talked about how he was very grateful that our Henrico Richmond Health District has been partnering with the National Guard over the last several weeks, but more specifically these last probably 7 days, they've ramped up point prevalence survey. Yesterday, they tested more than 5,800 people in the Commonwealth. On Wednesday, they tested over 5,000 people in the Commonwealth. So he wanted to remind everybody that testing really it's really a 5-step process, and it's not as easy as some are making testing out to be. First, you have to have a sick patient, coupled with the fact that your physician needs to be on board with recommending a COVID-19 test. We have to take the specimen, we have to transport that specimen to a lab. The lab has to test the specimen, and then we have to get the results back to the Department of Health, and then the Department of Health gets that information back to, in our case, the provider. So the good news is that testing, a couple of weeks ago, they presented a 5-phase plan, and we are already in phase 2, which seems like it's a little bit ahead of the curve, where we have the capabilities to test almost as 5,000 people a day. In these next 2 weeks, it seems like we're going to be able to test almost 10,000 people a day. And so, while that's really important, because not only is the capability going to be available through these drive-thrus that you see in and around Richmond, or the testing available through a point prevalence survey, which we've already conducted, but moving forward, as doctors' offices are allowed to open up here in the next couple of weeks, they'll also have the capability to do testing right in those offices. And so we are partnering with 2 additional Virginia labs and a lab in North Carolina. And the addition of those 3 labs will enable the Department of Health to do on their end, about 3,000 more tests a day. So the Department of Health is really, like I had said yesterday, they are extremely flexible, very professional. They're step by step with the governor in what he's communicating. So it's all great news for us here in Richmond. He did go on to talk a little bit about the CDC priorities of testing, which are really twofold. The 2 takeaways I took out of it was that testing is really meant for people who are hospitalized and people who have symptoms. So that's probably the most frequently asked question of the day. Michael, there's Maryland, for example, in California, they're just testing everyone, so everybody has a test. That's not our approach here in Virginia, and he is using the guidance from CDC as to how to prioritize the testing. He did mention that next steps on Monday, he's going to talk about a little bit more of phase 1 that he and his administration want to unfold here in the Commonwealth. He really did want to emphasize that we're already kind of in phase 1, because if you look at some of the other states that are in phase one, without actually making a formal announcement that we're in phase one in Virginia, our parks are open. We just announced that we have elective surgeries that are now open, dental offices, so we're kind of already there without making the formal announcement. And then he talked about the nursing home task force and how that task force has one of the tools available to them that we went through yesterday, point prevalence survey. So we wanted to make a broad brush announcement to the long-term care facilities throughout the Commonwealth that if you want to engage your local Department of Health in that effort and get the National Guard to do the PPS, please call the Virginia Department of Health. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve. So that was the governor's briefing. Hopefully that you provided help. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, a little bit more about our point prevalence survey that we conducted yesterday. Yesterday, April 30th. It's really remarkable how time is just flying by. The Henrico Health Department and their partners, the Virginia National Guard, spent much of yesterday at Cedarfield completing their point prevalence survey. And as a part of this PPS, the Virginia National Guard also completed 3 other things. First, so this picture is the 3 folks that actually helped with the second objective at Cedarfield yesterday. So we conducted a point prevalence survey, but we also conducted an infection control audit. The person to the right that you see in this picture, her name is Lieutenant Colonel Sam. In a prior life, she was the director of nursing at a few facilities. She happens to be an RN. She was an MDS coordinator, meaning she collected the data necessary to get funding from Medicare, from people who lived in a long-term care setting. And she was an infection control nurse. So we got the best of both worlds yesterday, having that type of person and that level of expertise here at the community. And so her team, which consists of 3 people, met with our infection control director, Connie McGowan, and they reviewed a number of things. They reviewed our preparedness plan. They reviewed our preparedness plan as we had it back in February, before this pandemic even started. And they reviewed our preparedness plan as of yesterday. So that plan has certainly evolved over the last several weeks. And they combed through the 37 pages of that plan. The second thing they reviewed was our infection control policies. Third, as I've said on these live streams over the last week, we had our own audit from the epidemiologist from the Department of Health on April 20th, 2 Mondays ago. They also provided a report of their site visit. So Lieutenant Colonel Sam combed through that report along with her team. They looked at our infection control assessment tools. So we have a very specific assessment tool that monitors how well we are implementing our infection control policies. They went on a tour of the community, and more importantly, probably the most important part of their tour was they watched behavior while they were up in the nursing home, assisted living, and the memory support area. They didn't just look at the paper and see what we were doing. They wanted to follow the team to see how well they would be executing what we said they were being what they were trained on. So they watched behavior. So while I haven't seen a formal report from Lieutenant Colonel Sam, which I don't really know if I'm even going to get a report, I can tell you she had really nice things to say about the entire team. She had a lot of great things to say about our plan. And in closing, she said, Michael, if there is a national conference somewhere around the United States, it would be my honor to present at that national conference the preparedness plan that you have in place and how you executed it and rolled it out. We have not quite seen one like this in the Commonwealth as we have conducted these point prevalence surveys. So I share that, not to boast, I just share that again as another set of eyes on the campus. She was pretty impressed with what we had put in place. So residents, a little bit more about our point prevalence survey. Residents who have tested positive from yesterday's point prevalence survey will be isolated in their healthcare room, and the team members who will be taking care of them will be utilizing the appropriate personal protective equipment. So we haven't got back the results yet. We'll probably get them back over the weekend, and then we will go through the protocol with the Department of Health, how to take care of these individuals. Residents who test negative will also be isolated in their healthcare room, as we have been doing and accomplishing this over the last 4 weeks. Residents in the health center have been confined to their room over the last 4 weeks. Team members who test positive will be asked to self-quarantine for a period of 14 days from the date of onset of their symptoms. If they didn't have any symptoms, then we will use the testing date as of yesterday as that date moving forward to calculate their 14 days that they need to be away from Cedar Field. So that's a little bit more detail about the point prevalence survey. I will draft a memo today and hope to get a memo out to the community at large and post that memo on our website. And I'll try to get something out either tomorrow or Sunday so that you can read about this point prevalence survey and a little bit more information about what has transpired over the last couple of days. Residents want to know what test was administered yesterday. Was it a throat swab, was it a blood draw, or was it a nose or a throat swab? So yesterday's testing was a nose swab. Believe me, it was very uncomfortable. I received one myself. The National Guard who administered the tests for the residents were very compassionate about it. They took their time with every resident. They spent almost 2 hours in the south and central neighborhood administering this test. So I was very proud of their diligence and their level of care. It wasn't just, testing somebody just for the sake of testing. They really took their time and did it with compassion. Eddie, you want to zoom in on this? So I just want to give some folks a little bit of the data as of today. To date, we have tested 16 residents, or residents have volunteered to be tested. 7 of those 16 have come back positive. 2 of those 7 are in the independent living building. 9 team members have been tested, and 7 team members have tested positive. That number has not changed from yesterday. So when we get the results back, from the Department of Health, then I will include the over 100, I'm drawing a blank right now on the number of tests, but I will include yesterday's results in these numbers as soon as they become available to me. Any other questions about the point prevalence survey? No other questions? All right. Next up is James Green, and he's going to walk us through the budget presentation.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon. My name is James Green. I am the Director of the Business Office here at Cedarfield, and I'm pleased to present the budget presentation for fiscal year 21. Our fiscal year starts on June 1st and will run to May 31st, 2021. Okay, we're going to go over the fiscal year 20 budget, fiscal year 20 capital projects. We're going to talk about historical rates at Cedarfield, the fiscal year 21 budget, and fiscal year 21 capital projects. Before we start about the fiscal year 21 budget, we're going to talk about our current fiscal year 20, and we have the results for the first 3 quarters from June 1st, 2019 to February 29th, 2020. So when you look at resident fees, we're projecting out to what the resident fees will be towards the end of the year. We're projecting a $22.88 million versus a budget of $23.2 million. Our operating expenses, we're projecting to come in at $21.9 million, which is slightly over budget of $21.6 million. We anticipate additional costs that we've incurred in our nursing department. Going to our next slide, this pie chart represents $1.5 million has been spent in the first 3 quarters at Cedarfield. We started at the top, we purchased a new vehicle for $28,734. We've done building renovations, which included upgrading some drainage in the courtyard. We put a new awning on the assisted living ramp, and we've also done some upgrades to our fire suppression system, where we replaced a lot of different valves and sprinkler heads in the building. Our computer expense is $22,289. We've replaced the roofs on 20 cottages. That was $169,565. And then our server, which runs all of our different computer programs here at Cedarfield, it's kind of the backbone of our IT system. We've done some network upgrades to increase the speed and capacity of our network, $73,613. And then also our pond dredging project, we spent as of February 29th, $254,010. That project's in work. And we have a little sliver we spent so far on the resident gardens, $5,287. We're hoping to get that project going as soon as we get clearance from the county. And we'll be able to install the garden house and also the garden beds for that project. And the biggest sliver there, resident renovations for apartment and cottages, we spent $735,669. the budget, I first want to thank all the department directors and Michael. They've really done a really good job in managing their expenses and keeping their departments running well. But the pandemic economic factors, we talked a little bit about personal protective equipment, which are masks, gloves, gowns, additional cleaning supplies that are needed. We're also need additional workers at Cedar Field, and then also the additional workers Mike will talk about that people might be asked to self-quarantine and that would get additional paid time off. And we're also maintaining our social distance by keeping 6 feet, so that takes tasks a little longer to complete and it kind of slows the operation down. And we're also taking additional safety precautions to make sure that everything that we're doing, we're operating in safety and using proper infection control. So for our fiscal year 21 budget, we talked again about our projected resident fees coming in at $22.88 million versus a budget of $23.2 million. And the fiscal year 21 budget is $24.9 million for resident fees. Our operating expenses, we anticipate for fiscal year 20 to be at $21.9 million versus a budget of $21.6 million. And for fiscal year 21, we're anticipating $22.5 million for operating expenses. This slide here talks about the average monthly fee increases at continuing care retirement communities independent living rates from 2010 through 2020. And you can see on the top line, the projection across the nation in Virginia is that rates will increase 3.44%. And over the last 10 years, rates consistently at other communities have been above 3%. At Cedar Field, this graph represents the historical data from fiscal year 97 through our current fiscal year 21. So it started off in 1997, the annual monthly fee increase was 4.7%, 4%, and then when we got all the way over into 2010, we were at 2.9, 2.8, 2.7, 2.5, 2.7, and then in fiscal year 2019, 2.95, this current year, 2.9%, and for fiscal year 21, 2.95%. This next slide talks about sources and uses of the monthly fee increase. So if we take our current projected resident fees for the current residents at Cedar Field, that's projected to be at $22.8 million, and for fiscal year 2021, that will be $23,472,600, or a change of $672,600. Our goal with our department directors was to keep our operating expenses the same and then only rely on increases for team members for our team member wages. For our fiscal year 2020, our budget was $11,207,323 for wages, and for fiscal year 2021, $11,886,950, an increase of $679,627. Through our planned expansion, we're adding a new wing, our D wing, which would be 27 new independent living apartments. And the monthly fees we're projecting for fiscal year 21 from those additional apartments would be $1,261,264, and we're using that revenue to offset our interest expense for our expansion. In addition, the entrance fees were to be used for debt repayment of $12,985,000. So we're using those for interest and debt repayment. So when you take the $22.5 million, how does it break up as far as category or functional expenses? As you can see from the chart, our biggest expense is wages, benefits, and training for team members. That represents 67% of the $22.5 million. Our next highest number is our food costs, which are at 9%. And then our utilities, which includes our cable, our gas, water, sewer, trash removal, and our telephone, that's 8%. The maintenance of all of the community is 7%. Our security and our grounds, which we've changed contracts with both our security team, we have a new team that started in March with Securitas, and also in mid-February, we added a new service agreement with a new landscaping company as well. That represents 4%. And then our information technology, that's all of our operating expense for all the different software programs that we have at Cedar Field to run our nursing, to run the business office, to run all the different programs here at Cedar Field, represents 2%. And then we have insurance,